Hello and welcome to another Unmasked episode of So What's on Your Mind? I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, and today we are sitting down and speaking to one of the most multifaceted individuals in the country. His skill sets comes across from many forms, from a software engineer, writer, businessman, influencer, and a lifelong learner. So we're here to find out what is going on in his world, from politics to life, music. People be interesting, probably that'll come up a little bit, health, or anything he wants to talk about. Today's guest is a young man that I've had the pleasure to know, almost 20 years, if not 20 years now. All his work in the software and tech industry. He's done a ton of work, like I said, in the software and tech industry. He also was the president and director of basketball operations for Hoopville Media Services, the parent company of Hoopville. And that's when I kind of met him a long time ago on that. He joined Hoopville, roughly 2005 or 2005, around that time. And then, that first season he was with them, he was on site, became manager. He became managing editor in 2005. So that means before that, he was with them before that. That's when I think I was at the Central Connecticut days.
The first year of the site. Yep.
Before becoming owner in 2010. So he became the owner in 2010. He also was a regular contributor to the CSTV.com and the New England Recruiting Report, as well as Rivals.com. He has also been a media voter for the Colonial Athletic Association for 14 years, as well as being a voter for the ACC. I want to say hello and welcome to a young man. I keep saying that I've been known. I mean, not only did I run into him into the gym, I ran into him at concerts. I think he was at the Jazz Festival down here in Maryland before. So he is a connoisseur of great music. He's a big jazz fan, big R&B fan. So I want to welcome to the show Phil Kasiecki. So Phil, I want to ask you because you have so many different ways you go. Like I said, deep thinker, writer. I mean, like all these things. But what's on your mind today?
It's ironic that we would be talking today, the day after the event that I ran last night with somebody I met through networking earlier. I'll talk a little more about that in a moment, but in many ways, the story I shared about the woman I ran this with last night is even a little bit like us, because as you mentioned, you met my wife back when we were still just dating at the Capitol Jazz Fest about a decade ago. We were there to go see Anita Baker. We got rained on a little bit there. I remember we had a little delay in the concert because of that. We still got to see a great show. Of course, it's one of the many great artists I've been fortunate to see. I went to the Capitol Jazz Fest every year from 2000 to 2014. I used to call it the best weekend of the year because as great as the music was, it was always a who's who of artists there, but the atmosphere out there was always amazing. You talk to somebody there you've never met, and within about 10 minutes feel like you've known that person for 10 years. It's just such a camaraderie that we all share. And in some ways, it's like basketball. I spent all those years in the basketball world and relationships are everything, whether you're a coach, whether you're in the media. As a coach, it's obvious. Relationships help recruit kids, and they have many other respects too, but that's the most obvious one. Recruiting is the lifeblood of a college program. In the media, relationships are everything for things like, the obvious one is getting scoops, but additionally, it's also finding out little bits of information that help with other stories. It's finding out even about some information regarding games or scheduling. I remember one time actually a relationship really paid off for me when it came to a conference tournament. I actually got denied a credential to one conference tournament, but I already had a plane trip going down to where I was to about 2 hours away from here. So I contacted the media relations director, 2 hours away from there, and even though it was past their deadline, he said, "No problem, fill out the form, we'll get you in there." So at least my trip wasn't a waste for a few days there. In many ways, this relationship paid off. So the big event I referred to last night, last night a friend of mine and I, and It was a DEI tech networking event. The technology industry is a wonderful industry to be in. It's where I've been for my whole career, and the possibilities were endless, especially in software. Software is in so many more places than it used to be, so that there are many career options for the industry. You can go, you can ascend up the ladder, either being a senior principal engineer, basically not going into management. You can go into management. You can be a consultant once you get the years under your belt. You can be an entrepreneur, and I know people who've done that within the tech industry. But one thing that certainly the tech industry has certainly had some challenges with, like many others, is certainly with diversity, and it includes up here in New Hampshire. So we got together with the Blacks in Technology New England chapter, where we were the president, to go for this event. We had, I want to say we had upwards of about 70 attendees there last night in a great space. Many new connections made. I saw a few people I hadn't seen in some time, further with a few people. And as happens at an event like this, especially when you're with people, I did miss a couple of people too. But it was tremendous. And so the woman I ran this event with, I actually shared a story on LinkedIn about it today. We met at one of these networking events about 6 months ago. And I don't think anybody would have ever figured that just about 6 months later we would have run a big event like this. But it's a real testament, one, to the power of networking, but also the power of following up, because just like when I would go meet coaches, it's sure I might go meet you at an AAU event, but if I never talk to you again, what comes to that relationship? It's all about following up after that, because that's when things turn to much more than just someone you have to meet at one time and it's a one-off. And that was what happened here, although it took a little bit, because right after that event, my life got hectic because my family had an overseas trip. We had prep, and then we were gone for 2 weeks. So my life got hectic. When we came back and my life settled down, we reconnected a little more. And little did I know that I had made quite a connection, because in so many ways, I've been serving the tech industry in various ways. I go to a lot of demo days with a lot of coding boot camps that then where students then show up and find a project. And this also helps them when they're making a career change into this industry, among many other things. But I've never felt so fired up to go and make things happen in this industry since I met her, because she has made the same age. She is making a lot of things happen. She hosts a local TV show here that also has a big YouTube following. I've been on the show now twice, and there's so much more. Now after this event, we've got many more of these still to come. I think we're hopefully going to make this happen more than just this year. So I'm asking for it, and I think so. There's a world of potential, and even for the way this can go make a difference. So, you know, and in much the same way that she's become a personal connection as well. Our families have met each other. We all know everybody else in the family, so it's much more than just a professional connection. Most the same way that you and your boyfriend, by the way, we were still down in the same place again. That may happen again too. And it's one of the great stories about networking, where you not only accomplish things from a business standpoint, which of course we think of networking, but it turns into much more than that. And relatedly too, as I think of it, of course you had the great series Unmasked, and I've enjoyed watching so many of those. You had so many of my favorite people on that over these years. I mean, we can go right down the list from people like Bruce Harrison, Curtis Wilson. I actually got away from watching this for a little bit. It was actually fairly recently that I saw the one with Curtis, who I knew since early in his Yale days. Always one of my favorite people. Of course, he's worked for two brothers, and I know both Joe and James. I remember covering one of their games in the Ivy League too, when they were both coaching there. I remember they would talk about how it was always a tough week when they had to play each other, because they wouldn't speak leading up, because of course, what are they going to talk about them? Are they going to talk about how they're going to beat each other? Of course not. So it was always fun to do that, and it's just one of those, a lot of my favorite people on here, and highlighting really the assistant coaches don't get the same kind of showcase as the head coach. We all know the head coaches at a lot of the schools. Assistant coaches, you mainly hear about the hot assistant coaches, like the head coaching job. But there are so many more who aren't in those conversations who actually deserve it. Of course, you've had a few former head coaches. First one I mentioned, Bruiser Flint, Larry Harrison, both former head coaches. Knew them both very good coaches. And so it's great to keep them a little spotlights that more people know about them, not just the ones that hear about it. So it's quite a time, because there's a bunch of I've got a bunch of other things going on now. College basketball is here. as well. So of course that's I'm gonna be lucky. I've been out of the game for a couple of years now, but I still love the game. I'm still in touch with the same people that I knew all those years. You being one of many of them. And it's still fun to go watch the sport. It's a little more challenging to follow with transfers being what they are, but it continues on. Everything that keeps heralding that, out the death of college basketball, it never ends up happening. I've said this for years. Every time someone says, well, this is going to lead to the death of college basketball, well, you've heard this before. It doesn't happen.
No, but hey, I mean, I appreciate, because you threw in a lot of things that relates, and we always talk about it with athletics. I mean, power follow-up, networking, and people don't understand, like, that's why it's so important. I mean, sport and life go together. Like, it does. I mean, you can use a lot of things. I mean, you touched on that. I appreciate all the kind words about Unmasked with having all these assistant coaches that no one really talks about. Something I became proud of. I mean, I just wanted to make sure those guys got their light. And, a lot of them, like, after my first year, I saw 40% of those guys get new jobs. So that was like a plus to me. And then people have no idea, like, getting calls from the athletic directors to agents to search firms, just asking about those guys. What's your thoughts from just that segment? I thought it was a plus, but I appreciate you being very informative today. That's what I hope everyone gets out of it. That's what I think everyone has gotten out of these short takes, kind of just informative information, what they can do, not only in sport, but in life, whether it's politics, music, education, whatever it is. But Phil, I want to thank you for giving me some minutes this morning, coming on and talking. So I appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Talk to have a great weekend, man. And I know I'll be reading some of your stuff. I enjoy a lot of your stuff on LinkedIn. I know that. Or you get into conversations with somehow you get LinkedIn. I mean, your comments on Lonnie Harrell's post a lot. It's kind of hilarious. So,
Lonnie for years. He was at Northeastern when I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I appreciate it, man, and have a wonderful weekend.
You as well.